Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's 2018 conference. I am a graduate student at Sire University. We will make it a presentation. 1. Introduction. Organizational performance is defined as negative workplace behaviors that reduce organizational performance. According to Robinson and Bennett, 1995, 556. Organizational deviation behavior is any deliberate behavior that threatens the productivity and/or employees of violence organizational norms. Individual conflicts in all the organizations. Negativities towards knitting can also be seen in educational organizations. Such negativities can disrupt the integrity of the organization and reduce the quality of education. In this context, it is important to examine the organizational and behavioral aspects of the schools, which are the most important footsteps of education organizations. Terkis and Nassas and Duman. 2016. Performance-based evaluations in the context of the 21st century can affect the overall structure and functioning of the organization in various ways. The evaluation of the performance of the teachers revealed the need for the management of the deviations. For this reason, it is important for the organization to identify the factors that cause these behaviors by determining what the organizational deviation behaviors are and the necessary precautions for not repeating these behaviors. The view that performance management practices have a great influence on the organization and can affect the organizational deviation behaviors in positive and negative dimensions constitutes the basis of this research. Researches on behaviors of organizational deviation have been mostly seen in businesses such as hospitals, public institutions, hotels, and restaurants. We can say that researches are not enough. In this sense, the researcher is thought to contribute to attracting attention to the organizational deviation behaviors of our related schools. For this reason, the problem of our research constitutes the statement that on the level of organizational deviation behavior. 2. Method 2.1. Research design. In this research, descriptive relational scanning models are used as quantitative research methods. It is important to understand that there is a great deal of research on this subject, he said. It is not a problem present and exists. Karasar, 2007-77, 2.2. Universe and sampling. The student's universe constitutes a total of 2045 teachers working in Sire Province Center. According to the universe of the researcher, 333 teacher views meet the number of representatives for the universe. According to the study, 470 scales were distributed and 360 scales were returned to the people of the United States. According to the report, according to Can, 2017, an opinion of 333 people, even if there is no homogeneous distribution in an environment of 2,500 people. Since 1961, they were not filled in accordance with the directive, and 341 were excluded from the survey. Information on the sample group included in the application is presented in Table 1. Table 1. Information on the sample group of the study. 2.3. Data collection tools. 2 scales were used as data collection tools. Teacher, Manager Performance Management Scale, PO, in the official and private primary schools. Developed by Boston C. 2004 and developed by Robinson and Bennett 2000 to determine the level of performance management. 20-item and 3-dimensional organizational deviation scala, OLS, which was adapted by Turkey 2013, are used in Table 2. The results of the reliability analysis scales are presented in Table 2. 2.4. Data collection and analysis. The data obtained in this study were analyzed as percentage, arithmetic mean, X, frequency, F, and standard deviation. Significance was sought according to p less than 0.050. The confidence interval is the range of tolerance created by the likelihood of rejection of the hypothesis and is counterproductive to the probability of making a type error in the study. This value is determined by the value of alpha 1 less than equals confidence interval. The confidence interval p less than 0.05 in this study represents the range of values to be found with 95% probability of the mean value of the universe. Altunisic, Koskin, Yildirim and Bayraktaroglu, 2002. 151 variance test values were examined in determining the distributions of gender, occupational seniority, occupation, branch, age, union, and school type independent variables. T-test and NOVA were used for homogeneous distributions, and Mann-Whitney-Hugh and Kruskal-Wallis analysis procedures were used for non-homogeneous distributions. Correlation R analysis is performed for relationship between performance management and organizational deviation in subdimensions. Results. When Table 3 is examined, it is seen that the overall arithmetic average of the performance management scale is 3.877, which corresponds to the perception of "I agree too much" in the gap value scale. When Table 4 is examined, it is seen that the general arithmetic average of the organizational deviation scale is 1,845, and this corresponds to the range value scale of the "I do not participate" perception. I do not agree with the individual and organizational subdimensions, and the ethical subdimension corresponds to the perception of absolutely disagree. When Table 5 was examined, there was no significant difference in the ethical dimension of performance management and gender mainstreaming among the surveyed teachers. A significant difference was found in organizational perception and overall dimension of organizational and individual subdimension. The size, in the direction of these findings. It is seen that the male teachers have higher interpersonal and organizational deviation behaviors than the female teachers. In Table 6, we see the results of the ANOVA test to see if there is a meaningful difference between subscales of organizational perceptions according to school types. The Bonferroni test was conducted to determine which groups had significant differences according to the results. When we look at Bonferroni test scores, there was a significant difference in the organizational subdimension of organizational analysis between middle school and high school average and middle school, P equals 0.011, P and LT 0.05. When Table 7 is examined, it is seen that the Kruskal-Wallis test, a non-parametric test, is applied because the performance management according to the school type independent variable does not show a homogeneous distribution. According to Kruskal-Wallis test, there was a significant difference in overall performance management practices. Performance general x2 equals 6062, p less than 0.05. The Mann-Whitney-Hugh test, one of the non-parametric tests, was conducted to determine which of the school management was this significant difference in the overall dimension of performance management. Mann-Whitney-Hugh test scores showed a significant difference between middle school and high school, P equals 0.017, P less than 0.05. A statistically significant correlation was found in the negative direction, p less than 0.010, as a result of the correlation analysis conducted to determine the relationship between the performance management practices applied to schools and the organizational deviation. R equals minus 205, p less than 0.010. 4. Results. It was found that there was a significant difference between the general dimension of organizational feeling and the organizational and individual subdimensions according to the gender variable among the teachers in the research. It is seen that male teachers have higher interpersonal and organizational deviation behaviors than female teachers. This can be explained by the role of the male and female teachers in the school working environment and personality traits in private life. It can be argued that women have less organizational deviation behavior than men and are more vulnerable to adverse situations they encounter. According to the ANOVA test, there was a significant difference between the average scores of elementary and middle school in organizational subdimension of organizational perception in order to determine whether there was a meaningful difference between organizational perception subscales according to school types. While the teachers in the secondary school are in the process of leaving the branches, problems in course sharing can lead to organizational deviation behaviors. There was a significant difference in the overall dimension of performance management practices to see if there were any differences according to school types according to the Kruskal-Wallis test. According to Mann-Whitney U-test scores among school types, this significant difference in performance management was found between middle school and high school. Since primary school teachers are institutions that prepare higher education, it can be said that the average of primary schools is higher than that of middle schools. Because branch teachers have different performance monitoring policies. As a result of the correlation analysis between the performance management practices applied to schools and the organizational deviation, it is seen that there is a low negative correlation between performance management practices and organizational deviation, negative direction. As the performance management practices applied to schools increase, it can be said that the organizational deviation behavior observed in the organization decreases. It can be said that when organizational deviation values increase, performance management practices decrease. An increase in the level of performance in a school can be said clearly in terms of the people involved in the performance system, the ability to think of skills, the feedbacks about time and place, and the support and motivating factors, employees. The negative relationship between performance management in research and organizational deviation behavior shows that the quality of performance management practices will reduce the disintegration behavior within the organization. Deviations that cause financial and moral highs in educational institutions can be reduced in certain amounts by improving performance management practices in schools. In this sense, when the findings obtained in this study are compared with the findings of other studies, it is important to show the relation between performance management practices and organizational deviation behaviors in the most important step of our educational institutions. As a result, this study supports the assumption that performance management practices in an educational institution may affect organizational deviations. 5. Recommendations. Given that the effectiveness of performance management increases the contribution of teachers and reduces organizational deviations, researchers need to pay more attention to primary, secondary, and high school students. There is not enough research about organizational deviation in the literature. For this reason, the literature will contribute to the achievement of different results by conducting research on organizational deviation behaviors on different sample groups. Thank you.